Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to continue on creating our general styles. Now, in the previous lecture we created all the color primaries with the modified light and dark versions. And now I'm not going to bore you anymore. I'm just going to copy paste the rest of the colors that we have because the process is going to be the same. We are going to have our colors and then we're going to have lighter versions of them and darker versions of them. And I'm just gonna grab all of these. I'm going to delete them. And for dark, I'm also going to grab all of these and I'm going to delete them and I'm going to save them. There we go. So these are the colors that we have in our website. The next section of custom properties, it is going to pertain to padding. So I'm just going to say padding. Now, the reason that I'm using strategically, I'm using colors, paddings, and then we are going to use font sizes, is because these are the most used properties in CSS. So we have colors all over the place, we have paddings, we have font sizes, a lot. That's why we're just going to create them using custom properties, and then later on, if we want to change them, we just have to change it at one place, and then the entire layout of the website is going to change. So when it comes to padding, what I'm going to say is, for the first word, it has to determine or give away the nature of that custom property. And in this case, it is padding. That's why the first word is padding. Now, the first one is going to be XL, which is going to be extra large. So first, let me create our keywords. Let's just provide them. So XL stands for extra large. And then we have L stands for large. I'm sure you have guessed it now. By now it is medium. And then we are going to have S, which is going to stand for small. So I'm just going to provide you with these so you know, okay, which ones actually, what do they mean? So I'm going to say padding XL. Calc. Now, we have not talked about the calc function of CSS. The calc function, it basically calculates two or more units together. And it doesn't matter what the unit of those units are. So if you want to combine 2 rems plus 3 rems, you're going to end up with 5 rems, right? But you want to do this programmatically, then you're going to use the calc function. You're going to say 2 rem plus 5 rem. It supports 4 of the basic arithmetic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It supports all of them except for division, which you cannot divide by 0. You're going to get an error, right? So keep that in mind. Now, you could also say 2 rem plus 10 pixels. How much is that going to be? So 2 rem, 20 pixels, 10 pixels is 30. So 10 pixels is 10. So 20 plus 10, it's going to be 30 pixels. That's how it is going to combine them. Now, don't worry about different units, because at the end of the day, all the calc function is going to do is convert all of them to pixels as per the font size of the HTML, and then it is going to calculate how many pixels there are. Because at the end of the day, what we have is, when we go to our computer styles, let's just go ahead and take a look at that. At the end of the day, what we have in here is all of these are pixel values. You don't see like rems, m's, or anything else. Maybe like they are derived from those values, but they're actually like this one. It comes from rem and 0.5 VW. But the computer values for lengths and sizes, it's always going to be pixels. So don't worry if you say, okay, you cannot add oranges with apples. But in CSS, you can. You convert all of them to something like fruits, and then you combine fruits together. It may not have been the best example, but I hope it conveyed the point. So when it comes to padding, I'm going to provide 2 values. And we have talked about what those 2 values mean. The first one is top and bottom, and the second one is left and right. Now, each calc function, it doesn't matter how many values there are within the parentheses. They are going to be calculated, and they're going to result in just one value. So if I say plus 5 rem plus 10 VH plus 20 VW, even though there are 5 units, the result of this entire thing is just going to be one number. And that number is important for us. So that number is going to be applied on top and bottom, which is going to be 2 rem plus 6 VH. Now I'm going to talk about this, and then we are going to basically just end this video right here. The reason that I'm combining a sort of fixed unit or absolute unit with a relative unit, even though rem is relative, but when you convert it into pixels, it becomes an absolute unit. The reason that I'm combining fixed units with relative units or flexible units like VH or VW is because VH allows that padding to get smaller. So if the height of the window is getting smaller, let's say if the height of the window is 1000 pixels, 6 VH is going to be 6% of that 1000 pixels, and that is 60 pixels, right? But if the height of the window is 500 pixels, then 6 VH is no longer 60 pixels, it is 30 pixels. All right, so that's what we are actually trying to do here. We are setting a fixed unit for our padding. The fixed unit is going to specify the minimum padding size that our section or our item or our box is going to have. It cannot go below 2 rem. It can't go. And it can always go 2 rem plus 6 VH. And we know 6 VH it depends on the height of the window. If the height of the window is 100 pixels, then 6 is going to be 6 pixels. And then we have 20 rem there. That is 20 rem, 2 rem, which is 20 pixels. 20 pixels plus 6 pixels, we are going to end up with 26. So this way, you get a dynamic system. If the screen size is large, the padding is going to go large. If the screen size is smaller, you're never going to run out of padding. If you just provide 6 VH, when you get to like 100 pixels of size for height, you're going to end up with 6 pixels, which is a lot, which is very, very small for padding. That's why we provide it with a fixed unit, because we don't want to go below that fixed unit. That fixed unit is the least amount acceptable by us. And then the relative unit, it provides like room. It compensates for how large the screen is. So these are extremely responsive decisions that we're actually taking here. Let's move on. And I'm going to say calc 2 rem plus 6 VW. Now the same thing applies for VW as well. For VH, when you have 2 values in your padding, what do they refer to? The first one refers to top and bottom. That's why we've used VH, viewport height, because top and bottom. The second one, it pertains to left and right. That's why we've used width, because width is horizontal and then the height is vertical. So the width, as you keep decreasing the width, which for the most part, that is exactly what we're doing, the 6 VH is going to be very, very flexible. When you get to 100 or when you get to 300, 6 VH is going to be like 18 pixels. Plus 20 pixels for 2 rem, it's going to be like 38 pixels. But if you make it smaller and smaller, the padding, the left and right side paddings, they're never going to go below 2 rem. That is the fixed point. And the reason that we provide, again, absolute these relative units is because we want to just provide some sort of interactivity, some sort of responsiveness to the padding for our sections. This is something that I do quite a lot in my projects. I do this for font sizes. I do this for widths, for heights, for paddings. I don't usually set up height and width maybe like twice per project. Width, I try to never set a width because I wanted my content to decide the width that they require, because any value that I set is going to be, at some point, is going to become absolute. And then that absolute unit is going to basically ruin the entire project. So you need to keep these in mind. Now, the reason that I'm providing this is for responsiveness. But why? How for responsiveness? Now, if you provide a padding when your website width is 1500 pixels, you provide, let's say, padding 4 rem, 40 pixels, right? You say, okay, I want 40 pixels on the left, 40 pixels on the right, and top and bottom. But when it comes to 1000 pixels, then 40 pixels is a lot of padding. You might want to decrease that. Then you're going to use media queries, and you're going to set it to 3 pixels, 3 rem. Then when you get to 800, you say, okay, now that doesn't look good. I want to decrease the padding in accordance to the width of the screen. I need to adjust that ratio, how much the width of the screen is getting smaller and how much the padding has to adapt to that decrement of the width of the screen. And then you're going to have another media query, and you're going to say, okay, 2 rem. And then at 600, another one, and 400, another one. Basically, you're going to end up with hundreds of media queries. Now, with this unit, with this kind of approach, what you don't have to do is provide media queries for sizes. For the most part, still there are going to be like some backfires with this kind of very flexible unit, but for the most part, when the width of the screen is getting smaller, so is the size of your padding. That's why you don't have to provide any kind of media queries. So the width of the screen is getting smaller. You're on a smartphone, and then the padding is going to adjust itself based on that, because when it is width, you have provided left and right padding as VW or viewport width. Viewport width is going to decrease as the width of the window decreases, and when the height of the window decreases in portrait mode for mobile phones, so does the padding for top and bottom. I know I've talked a lot about this because this is something that I use quite a lot in my projects, and I think this is really, really important that you really understand what this is, because the sky's the limit with calc function, what it does, how you can use that. It is used a lot professionally, believe me, this calc function. So it is very important for you to master this right from the start. Now, I'm just going to finish up this padding, and we are going to do the rest of the general styles in our next lecture. So I'm going to have a padding large. I'm just going to copy all of them here. We're going to have a padding large. For top and bottom, we have 3 rem and 4 VH. For left and right, we have basically the same values, but for horizontal. Padding medium, and then we have padding small. Now I'm just going to remove these. So padding L, this is going to be M, and this is going to be small, just making it a little bit shorter as we go along. So with this, our lecture comes to an end. See you in the next one.